When you feel nothing, no drive, no spark, no reason to move, that is the moment that defines your future. Because emotion fades, but action must remain. Force yourself to move, not because you feel like it, but because your mission demands it. That's how momentum is built from silence. In a few moments, I'll teach you how to force yourself forward, even when your heart feels absolutely nothing. When you feel numb, that's when you're most alive. If you dare to move, you wake up and there's no spark, no fire. The sky looks the same, the routine feels like a burden, and you question the point of taking one more step forward. But what you fail to see is that this is the moment of greatest opportunity. When you feel nothing, it's not emptiness, it's potential energy waiting to be commanded. This silence inside you, this stillness, is the test of your will. Anyone can act when the heart is stirred, but greatness belongs to those who act when their spirit is quiet. Why do most people stay stuck? Because they wait for motivation to arrive. They wait for a sign, a wind, a push. But the greatest victories come when you move without feeling, when you act without applause, when you go forward because you said you would. So how do you do it? You begin with something small. You stand up, you shave, you write one line, you walk 1 mile. Then 2, you take the same mechanical motions the strong once took. Each action is a command to the mind that you are still the one in charge. Imagine a person who rises from bed, even though nothing inside tells them to. They fix their clothes, tend to their plans, and face the day like a warrior with no drumbeat. That person is not ordinary. That person is rare. What if you started doing what needs to be done even when you feel nothing? What if you stopped asking how you feel and started asking what needs to be finished? The weak wait to feel ready. You win by acting without permission. You've been told to listen to your heart, to move when you're inspired, but life does not wait for your feelings. It marches on, indifferent to your moods. The person who waits to feel ready is always one step behind, always hesitating at the doorway of opportunity. You must act even when you feel cold inside. Why? Because readiness is not a feeling, it is a decision. History remembers the people who stepped forward despite fear, despite fatigue, despite doubt. The strongest people were never the ones who felt most confident. They were simply the ones who acted regardless of how they felt. So what do? You build a habit of commitment. You make decisions the night before. You place your clothes on the chair, your shoes by the door. You declare your actions in advance, then follow through no matter the mood of the morning. That's power. Picture this, a person who writes each morning even though their spirit is dry. Another who trains their body even as their mind whispers weakness. They are self-commanders. They are becoming giants, one dry day at a time. Will you let your feelings decide your future, or will you step forward with empty hands and full resolve? Build yourself in the dark. The light comes later. There are seasons when the world falls silent around you. No celebration, no inspiration, no visible reward. Joy feels distant, and victory looks like a myth. But understand this. These moments aren't your downfall. They're the crucible. The fire that doesn't warm you but transforms you. In the silence, something deeper is being built. This isn't failure, it's formation. When the light disappears and only your breath remains, that's when you discover what you're truly made of. If you can keep walking with no map, no cheer, and no fuel, you're not lost, you're becoming dangerous. You're learning how to move without being moved by feeling. When motivation dies, discipline takes the throne. And that discipline, repeated without applause, becomes currency, an investment made in sweat instead of inspiration. You might not feel like doing anything. That's fine. You don't need to feel it, you only need to do it. Because those actions you take when your heart is heavy, they matter more than the ones taken in joy. They shape your future without asking for permission. You are building momentum while others sleep through their seasons of silence. The world won't clap yet, but your reward is stacking quietly out of sight. So how do you move through it? Choose a mission. One mission, not 20, not 10, one. Maybe it's a craft you're mastering, a quiet promise you made, or a long overdue task you've buried. Make that your battle, and then fight it every day, whether the soul is on fire or freezing, whether the sky is clear or storming. Let consistency, not excitement, be your identity. Because when you act out of commitment, not convenience, you become someone no feeling can control. Think of the one who chisels away at midnight, alone, without applause, no audience, no music, no warmth in the chest, just stubborn repetition, returning not because it feels good, but because they gave their word. The world doesn't know their name, doesn't see their hands bleeding, but the universe keeps score in secret. And sooner or later, reward always finds the one who didn't quit. Always. Quiet work becomes loud result. Hidden labor becomes visible harvest. Not overnight, but inevitably. Ask yourself this: what am I building in the dark? What if this silence, this stillness, this dryness isn't punishment, but preparation? What if this is your private battlefield where no one can distract you, where your muscles grow because your emotions aren't in the way? Maybe the emptiness is making space for strength. Maybe the darkness is wrapping you, not to harm, but to harden. So keep showing up, even when nothing shows up for you, because the one who keeps moving through the night owns the sunrise. Motion breaks the fog. Stillness grows it when the fog is thick and your chest feels hollow. No drive, no fire, no feeling. It's easy to do what most people do. Nothing. They sit still. They wait for the sun to come back. They hope that clarity or passion will knock on the door again. But the truth is this: the fog doesn't lift because you wait. It lifts because you move. You shift the atmosphere by stepping into it. You don't wait for permission, you give it to yourself. Because while waiting might feel safe, it slowly buries you in doubt. The longer you stay still, the louder the storm becomes in your head. Every second of hesitation breeds more questions, more confusion, more self-criticism. You start wondering if something's wrong with you. But the moment you take even one step forward, one task, one small effort, the fog loosens its grip. Why? Because action breaks the spell of thought. Thought multiplies itself, action cuts through it like a blade. One small move can do more to shift your state than 100 perfect ideas. You don't need to feel like it. You don't need to be inspired. What you need is momentum. Start by walking across the room. Splash water on your face. Speak your goal out loud, even if your voice trembles. Move your hands, clean your space, write a sentence, fold the laundry. These tiny movements tell your mind we are not done yet. They remind your soul that life is still flowing, even if the body knows how to lead when the mind gets lost. Imagine someone who's been stuck for months. They've thought themselves into paralysis. Too many plans, too much pressure. Then one morning they do something different. They don't overthink. They just step outside. They clean their tools. They sweep the porch. And something, quietly, softly, shifts. Not all at once, but the weight begins to lift. A whisper of purpose returns. The fog, for once, doesn't win. And it wasn't thinking that saved them, it was doing. Ask yourself this now: what if I stopped analyzing and started acting? What if the cure to this ache inside isn't some breakthrough thought, but just motion? What if your healing isn't something you need to find, but something you need to build, brick by brick, step by step? The fog was never your enemy. It was your training, a test of whether you'd move without clarity. So move, not because you're sure, but because you're alive. Self-discipline is the root. Every fruit comes from it. You want change, you want clarity, you want strength. But those things are not given freely. They are not granted by a passing feeling, a lucky moment, or a stroke of inspiration. They are earned painfully, quietly, and repeatedly through one unstoppable force: discipline. But not the discipline of punishment, not the kind forced by fear. This is the discipline of decision. A quiet vow made in the dark, far away from applause. A choice to show up not just once, but again and again, regardless of feeling, mood, or circumstance. Every great transformation has one common beginning: a decision. One person somewhere reached a point where they said, "I will do it, no matter what." That moment split time. Before that decision, they were reactive. After it, they became relentless. It wasn't lightning that changed them. It wasn't a perfect day or a motivational quote. It was the resolve to act and keep acting, even when everything screamed, "Stop." Discipline matters more than emotion, because emotion is fleeting. It comes and goes like wind across water. But discipline builds like stone upon stone. It compounds, it strengthens with time. The person who acts without waiting to feel right becomes immune to chaos. They don't need the world to cooperate. They don't beg for the right mood. They move anyway. And that movement shapes their identity into someone who finishes what they start. Someone who wins, quietly and consistently. So how do you build this force within yourself? Start small, start now, make tiny agreements, and keep them. Wake up when you said you would, not for a gold star, but because you said you would. Speak calmly, even when anger burns inside, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Study, read, train, even when your passion is absent. These choices may feel small, but they create a mind that obeys your command. Picture the person who lives this way. They don't need to talk about it. You won't see fireworks around them, but they are anchored. While others rise and fall with their feelings, this person rises through structure, 1 hour at a time, one choice at a time. While others drown in chaos and distraction, they float, held up by habit. They aren't dragged around by their inner storms, they sail through them. They're not dramatic. They don't announce every step, but their life becomes a signal. Their progress becomes a lighthouse. Others wonder how they did it, but the answer is always the same. They obeyed their mission, not their mood. That's why they win, that's why they grow. Ask yourself now, and answer with honesty, do I obey my moods or do I obey my mission? Every excuse you've made had a feeling behind it. Every moment you quit came after a mood changed. But your mission, the thing you truly want, doesn't care how you feel, it waits. And only discipline can carry you there. Emotion is a visitor, routine is a resident. You may wake up one morning and feel like a storm has passed through your spirit, tired but clear, as if something chaotic inside you has finally gone still. Other days you may wake to nothing at all. No inspiration, no passion, just a quiet emptiness, like a room where someone once lived but has long since left. These are the days that test your foundation. On these days, success will never be built on what you feel. It depends on what you've built, on the structure you can fall back on when feelings go silent. Feelings come and go like guests in a boarding house. They may arrive unannounced and they will always leave uninvited. But your routine, that is your shelter. Your daily rituals are not guests, they are your foundation. They are the resident you must care for every day. Most people break down when their emotions leave, not because they're weak, but because they never built a life stronger than their moods. They trusted motivation instead of discipline, and when the wind blew, they toppled. So what do? You build anchors. Anchors that hold fast no matter what storm rolls in. These anchors don't care if you're tired or inspired. They don't wait for sunshine, a set wake-up time, a daily walk, a period for quiet focus, a time in the evening for stillness and reflection. Each habit becomes a small declaration. I live by choice, not by chance. By commitment, not by chaos. Over time, these anchors tether you to clarity when the world tries to pull you away. Picture someone who rises each morning with a simple ritual. Maybe it's lighting a candle, maybe it's stretching, or journaling, or stepping outside before anyone else wakes. They do it whether the sky is bright or heavy with clouds. They do it whether joy is singing or silence is sitting on their chest. Their neighbors call it discipline. But what it really is, freedom. Because they no longer wait for a mood to move them. They move, regardless. And that movement creates power. Most people wait for inspiration to act. They wait for emotion to arrive before they decide who they are. But what if you reversed it? What if you acted first and let emotion catch up when it's ready? Imagine the freedom of being that stable, that intentional. Imagine not needing the perfect mood to do the necessary work. Imagine being your own strongest influence. That's what anchors do. They keep you upright when everything else tries to knock you down. Ask yourself this: what rituals do I live by even when I feel nothing? What anchors have I chosen that keep me aligned when my feelings drift? Because the goal isn't to always feel good. The goal is to always keep going. And when you build a life on anchors, not emotions, you become someone you can trust, someone who doesn't bend with every breeze, someone who can be counted on by others and by yourself. What if the most dependable person in your life could be you? Your mind is a wild horse, but it can be trained. There's a storm inside you even on the quiet days. Even when you feel flat or numb, something stirs beneath the surface. Your thoughts don't rest. They drift, leap, and spiral. One moment you're in the past, regretting a word. The next, you're in the future, worrying about something you can't control. Then comes frustration, confusion, criticism. Left untrained, these thoughts are like a wild horse, powerful, restless, and reckless. And if you don't learn to guide that horse, it will drag you in circles, away from everything you're trying to build. You don't need to erase your thoughts. You're not a stone. You're not here to be empty. But you must harness that energy. You must give it direction, because a wild, untrained mind is a dangerous master. But a focused, steady mind, that's a loyal servant. Most people are not destroyed by what happens to them. They're destroyed by their own unmanaged minds, by the stories they repeat, the spirals they feed, the worries they let run wild. So what's the solution? You start taming your inner world. Every morning, write down the thoughts you want to entertain. Not just your tasks, but your focus. Right? Today, I will think about building. about progress, about peace. Speak your values aloud. I will be calm. I will be focused. I will be present. These aren't empty affirmations. They are mental fences, quiet boundaries you're drawing around your energy. Like a shepherd with sheep, you don't let your mind wander without care. You lead it back again and again to the right pasture. That's how you reclaim power, not by force, not by shouting down every thought, but by choosing which ones stay. You don't need to fight every worry, just don't feed it. When your focus slips, because it will, gently pull the reins. Bring it back to your mission, back to your breath, back to the present moment. This is not about perfection. It's about leadership, and the first person you must lead is yourself. Picture someone walking through a large open field, holding the rope of a wild horse. The horse jerks, it rears, it bolts toward every noise, every shadow. Most people watching would say, let it go, it's too wild. But this person doesn't. Day after day, they walk it. Speak calmly, hold steady. They don't yank, they guide. And one morning, something changes. The horse stills. It walks beside them. That's your mind. When trained with love, patience, and firmness, you may not feel progress right away. You may feel like your thoughts still pull you too fast or too far. That's normal. But every time you bring your attention back, every time you choose purpose over panic, clarity over chaos, you are rewiring your brain. You're forming grooves that lead toward peace. And over time, your mind will begin to follow your command, not by fear, but by habit. That is the power of quiet, persistent mental discipline. You don't need a perfect mind, you need a trained one. A mind that doesn't fight you, but serves you. A mind that knows where to go when things get heavy. And the only way to build that is through daily practice. Small mental reps, morning intention, midday reminders, evening reflection. These are the rituals of someone who leads their inner life with grace and grit. Ask yourself now, are you being dragged by your thoughts, or are you leading them? Because your mind will follow someone, either the noise of the world or the whisper of your will. Train it, lead it, walk with it, until one day it walks with you. Force is not violence, it's choice without delay. Force sounds harsh to most people. They hear the word and imagine strain, suffering, or something unnatural. But real force, the kind that changes lives, is not punishment, it's not pressure. It's choice without delay. It's the moment you stop entertaining your thoughts and move. It's not violence, it's clarity. You say, I will, and act before hesitation whispers its poison. It's the choice to move, not because the world says go, but because you've decided. That's what force truly is. Quiet, clean, final. When you feel nothing, no energy, no desire, no inspiration, force is your only path to freedom. Because if you wait to feel like moving, you'll wait forever. The mind wants to be comfortable, but comfort kills forward motion. Force says, I will rise, I will go, I will begin, regardless of what the mind says. It is the courage to act when there's no comfort in sight. Why does this matter? Because most people never even take the first step. They stall. They analyze everything. They negotiate with themselves as if feelings were facts. They say, maybe tomorrow. I'll wait until I'm in the right mood, or let me think it over. But nothing happens. The problem isn't ability, it's permission. They're waiting for some external sign to begin, but no sign is coming. And in that waiting, their power dies a slow, silent death. But you don't need a signal. You don't need to feel ready. You only need to decide. One sharp decision can cut through weeks of confusion. You don't need motivation, you need motion. You take that first step, not because you're confident, but because you're committed. You act without fanfare. No crowd, no perfect playlist, no warm-up. And as your body moves, your mind begins to wake up and follow. This is the secret most people never learn. Motion leads emotion, not the other way around. You don't wait to feel good before you start. You start and then you feel good. You take action first. Then the mood shifts. You force the change physically, and the mind adjusts. That's why force is not cruelty, it's kindness. It breaks the emotional lock that keeps people stuck. It opens the door your feelings have tried to block for too long. Picture this. Someone sitting in a cold, dim room. Their hands are still, the air is heavy, nothing is inviting. But then they stand. No one tells them to, they just do. They walk across the room, light a lamp, open a window. The room hasn't changed much, but they have. They took command. That's the quiet, unseen power of force. No dramatic soundtrack, no speech, just movement. That's how lives change. Not in big public moments, but in small, private acts of force. You make your bed when you don't feel like it. You show up to work when your mind protests. You write the page, take the walk, clean the room, without waiting to want to. These actions are not glamorous, but they are foundational. They build the identity of someone who does instead of someone who wishes. Force isn't about aggression, it's about ownership. You own your time. You own your thoughts. You own your response to life. Every time you move when it would have been easier to stall, you reclaim more of yourself. That's why force feels hard at first, but over time it becomes freedom. Because now you decide how your day will go, not your mood, not your fear, not your past. There's no perfect moment, no right feeling, no ideal condition. There is only this breath and what you choose to do with it. And the people who change their lives are not the ones who wait for inspiration. They're the ones who act in its absence, who move anyway, who trust that forward action, no matter how small, will always create more clarity than standing still. Ask yourself now, what if I stopped waiting for a reason to move and just moved? What would shift if I acted without asking permission for my feelings? What would happen if I used force, not to hurt, but to heal? What if I lit that lamp, opened that window, and began walking, not because it's easy, but because I can? The answer is not in waiting. The answer is in motion. So move now. Success belongs to the person who does it anyway. There is no shortage of talent, no shortage of ideas. Creativity is everywhere, sparkling in minds, scribbled in notebooks, shared in conversations. What the world lacks is follow-through, not because people aren't capable, but because they've been trained to only act when the conditions are perfect, when it feels good, when excitement is high, when the wind is at their back and the path is smooth. But life doesn't work like that, and success never does. The real test isn't when it's easy, it's when everything inside you wants to stop. What happens when it's raining inside your spirit, when nothing feels exciting, when the glow is gone and silence hangs in the air? That's when the real divide appears, between those who pause and those who proceed, between dreamers and doers, between the ones who talk and the ones who build. Action, especially in difficulty, is what separates the rest from the rare. The people who go forward anyway are the quiet winners. You won't always see them posting or talking. They don't need an audience. They walk into the day, rain or shine, with their mission in hand. They do not wait for the stars to align. They don't need perfect clarity. They plant their crops under cloudy skies. They write when tired, practice when uninspired, train when discouraged. These are the people who eventually surprise the world, because they never stopped when it got uncomfortable. So how do you become one of them? You begin by saying something simple but powerful to yourself. My feelings are real, but they are not the ruler of me. That one truth can change everything. Your feelings are messengers, but they don't hold the pen. You do. So commit to the work, even on the dull days, even on the anxious days, especially on the I don't want to days. Do it badly if you must, but do it. The mind loves comfort. It will tell you to wait, to pause, to plan a little longer. But the only way to create momentum is to break the pattern. Day by day, the person who does it anyway begins stacking wins. Small, consistent wins that form a mountain, while others are still sketching blueprints. Discipline doesn't look dramatic, but over time, it becomes the loudest voice in the room. Not because it shouts, but because it delivers. Think of someone who keeps showing up. They wake up tired, the spark is gone, the noise of doubt is loud, but still, they show up. They keep their promise, not to impress anyone, but because they said they would. Their name may not trend, no spotlight shines, but behind the scenes they're building a foundation stronger than any one-day success. And when the harvest comes, people will ask, how did they do it? And the answer will be quiet and simple. I kept going. I moved forward when others stopped. I didn't wait to feel good. I did the work. That's what builds momentum. That's what creates results that look effortless later. It's not magic. It's consistency during chaos. It's effort through emotional fog. It's the power of not negotiating with every mood. That's where real transformation lives. Not in moments of motivation, but in moments of still showing up when motivation has left. It's about being resilient. You don't ignore your feelings. You just don't let them be your ceiling. You feel them, honor them, and then you move anyway. You realize that action brings back the energy you thought was lost. That every time you step forward, your soul remembers what it's here for. Some days you'll fly, some days you'll crawl, but either way you move. and that movement becomes your identity. Imagine if this became your reputation, not as the loudest, not as the most gifted, but as the one who shows up, the one who is reliable. You don't fade in the fog. You don't retreat at resistance. You rise, not with lightning, but with loyalty to your purpose. People will trust you, not because you promise, but because you prove. That's the kind of respect that can't be bought, it's earned. One quiet day at a time. You don't need to wait for the big moment, or the perfect plan, or the golden mood. What you need is a reason, a commitment, a single sentence in your heart that says, I will keep going, even here. You may not always have motivation, but you can always choose movement. That's how mountains are climbed, not in leaps, but in steps. And those steps add up faster than you think. So ask yourself, what if I became that person? The one who finishes what they start. The one who honors their word, not just to others, but to themselves. The one who moves forward, even when it's hard, boring, or invisible. That version of you is already inside. It just needs to be called forth through action. Start now, not next week, not when it feels better, now. Because the one who does it anyway is the one who ends up winning quietly. Still waters run deep. Use the quiet to go inward. When you feel nothing, it's tempting to believe something inside you has gone missing. Like the fire you once had has died. You search for passion, for drive, for the sharp edge of purpose. But all you find is stillness. And in that silence, doubt starts to speak. Maybe you've lost it, it says. But what if this stillness isn't your downfall, but your what if it's not a signal of failure, but a gateway to something deeper? Stillness is not always the end. Sometimes it is where the real beginning quietly waits. Stillness does not mean you've fallen behind. It often means your spirit is preparing for a deeper layer of growth. In noise, you can survive, reacting, performing, staying distracted. But in silence, you are forced to discover. That's why most people run from it. They panic when things go quiet. They reach for noise, distractions, endless scrolling, and empty conversations. Distraction is the enemy of revelation. When you constantly fill the silence, you never hear what your life is truly saying. Complaints drown out wisdom. Comparison numbs clarity. And busyness becomes a blanket that hides the truth waiting underneath. But silence? Silence offers no cover. It asks you to face yourself. And in that raw moment, uncomfortable as it is, you have the chance to see what's really there. That's where truth begins, not in noise, but in naked stillness. You must do the opposite of what the world teaches. You must sit with the silence and mine it for gold. Don't rush to distract yourself. Don't run from the pause. Instead, ask better questions. What is life trying to show me now? Where have I been avoiding the truth? What parts of me are asking to be seen, not silenced? These are the questions that turn stillness into strength. In the silence, your purpose will speak, but it won't shout. It whispers. It speaks slowly, in pieces, in quiet conviction. And you will only hear it if you stay long enough. If you stop demanding answers in a hurry and simply allow space to listen, true clarity does not arrive on demand. It emerges in the spaces most people run from. And the more you listen, the more direction begins to take shape. Quietly, steadily, powerfully. So what can you do in this space of stillness? Embrace solitude as a sacred teacher. Don't fear your own company. Lean into it. Reflect with a notebook. Empty your thoughts onto the page. Take long walks with no phone, no music, just you and your thoughts. Observe the patterns that repeat. Ask yourself what themes keep showing up. Often your next step has already been whispered. You just haven't slowed down enough to hear it. Stillness is not inactivity. It's a different kind of movement, a movement inward. Picture someone sitting beneath a tree, not speaking, not moving, just breathing. Hours pass. On the outside, it looks like nothing's happening. But inside, storms are calming, questions are forming, truth is being remembered. And eventually, they rise, not with confusion, but with direction. That is stillness fulfilled. That is power gathered in silence. We're trained to associate value with activity, to prove our worth through action, speed, production. But sometimes, your greatest evolution happens in the invisible places, in the moments no one sees, in the days when all you did was sit still, ask questions, and finally tell yourself the truth. That stillness is not wasted. It's essential. It's where noise burns away and clarity begins to shine. Think of the seasons. Even the earth goes still. Winter comes and everything slows down. Trees lose their leaves. The ground hardens. Animals withdraw. It looks lifeless. But beneath the surface, the soil is replenishing. Roots are deepening. The entire system is preparing. Your still seasons are the same. They may look empty, but they're where strength is gathered. Depth is formed in the quiet before the bloom. Stillness reveals what movement often hides. In constant motion, it's easy to ignore your fears, your wounds, your questions. But when you pause, all of it rises to the surface. That's uncomfortable, but necessary, because until you face what's hidden, you can't grow beyond it. Stillness makes you face the real you, and that's where transformation begins, not in pretending, but in presence. So ask yourself this, honestly. What might I find if I stop trying to escape the silence and start asking what it holds for me? What wisdom is waiting just beneath the noise? What truth have I been running from, buried under distractions? Don't fear the pause. Step into it. Let it teach you. Because often, your next level isn't found in more noise, but in the quiet you've been taught to avoid. This moment of stillness isn't weakness. It's not a dead end. It's a doorway. And it's not asking you to do more. It's asking you to listen better, to stop searching outside for what can only be answered inside. And when you finally honor that silence, when you finally stay long enough to hear, you won't rise with noise. You'll rise with clarity, with direction, and with strength that can't be shaken. One small victory a day builds a fortress in the mind. When you feel nothing, no spark, no urgency, no clear direction, your first instinct may be to do nothing, to wait for the fog to lift, to sit in the silence and hope something shifts. But in that hollow space, there's still one powerful tool within reach, a small win. One action, one promise kept, one task completed. It may not feel like much in the moment, but it's everything. In the midst of emotional drought, forward motion doesn't need to be fast. It just needs to be real. And one tiny act can remind you that you're not powerless. Each small victory becomes a brick in the fortress of your mind. You start rebuilding trust with yourself. You remember that you're someone who can follow through, even when you don't feel like it. And that's stronger than motivation. It's integrity. This is why so many fall into despair. They wait for a sudden breakthrough, unaware that breakthroughs aren't handed to you. They're built one steady action at a time. Small wins don't look heroic. They're quiet, they're easy to dismiss, but they're the scaffolding for future strength. You clean the kitchen, you reply to that overdue message, you drink water instead of reaching for a distraction, and each act whispers, "I'm still moving." Progress doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's a whisper, a breath, a step. But if repeated, it becomes momentum. And momentum, no matter how small, is what keeps you from spiraling into paralysis. So what's your task today? Not a perfect day, not a massive goal, one thing. Sweep the floor, write one paragraph, fix the broken hinge, finish the thing you keep postponing, not because someone's watching, not for praise or points, but for proof. Proof that you're still capable of showing up. Proof that even when the world feels stuck, you are not. We often overestimate what we need to feel better. We think it'll take a huge success, an emotional epiphany, a turning point with flashing lights. But more often, it's much simpler. It's the gentle stability that comes from doing something, anything, well. A single act of completion reminds your soul that it can still engage, still take shape, still show up in a world that feels faded. One small victory turns the volume down on despair. Picture someone lost in confusion. The thoughts are tangled, the future unclear, but instead of surrendering to the fog, they make their bed. It's not a solution, it's a start. Then they write a short plan. They follow one line from it. No applause, no drama, but something shifts. And day after day, those simple choices become a structure, a framework that anchors them, even when storms return. Their life may still have chaos, but it now has cornerstones too. Every small victory rewrites your inner script. It says, I am someone who does what they say. That belief matters more than inspiration, because the person who believes they follow through becomes the person who does. You don't need to wait for better emotions. You need to build better patterns. And patterns start with tiny, daily choices. No excuses, no waiting. Just one honest act. Stillness does not mean uselessness. Emotional flatness doesn't mean you're broken. It just means you're in a quieter season. And the work of that season is maintenance, not grand leaps, just preservation. Resilience is not built in fire, it's built in routine, in doing the right thing without the rush of motivation. That's where your true identity is forged. That's where real confidence grows. Not loud, but lasting. Even nature understands this. The strongest trees grow slowly, quietly, over time. Roots deepen while nothing visible changes. That's your one small act, a root pushing deeper, a sign you haven't quit. While others wait for perfect conditions, you water what you can. You move the needle a single inch, and eventually those inches stack into miles. That's how you build a life that storms cannot wash away. The truth is, you don't need to feel like doing it. You only need to do it. Then, little by little, your feelings catch up. The fog doesn't disappear in one motion. It thins. Every task completed, every word written, every dish cleaned makes the path ahead more visible. Discipline isn't cold, it's compassionate. It gives you structure when your heart feels structureless. One task is enough, then the next, then the next. You may think your small win today is too minor to matter, but that one act may be the thread that keeps everything from unraveling. That one task may anchor you when your thoughts are spinning. Don't underestimate the quiet rituals. They aren't filler, they are foundation. And every time you honor a small promise to yourself, you become someone worth trusting. To yourself, most of all. So ask yourself, what is my one small victory today? What's the one thing I can finish, not for applause, but for stability? Because in doing that one thing, you say, I'm still here. I'm still capable. I still matter. And from that one whisper, strength begins to return. Purpose begins to flicker again. Not all at once, but enough to stand on. When all else feels lost, let one small win lead you home. The fire comes after the friction. You want the fire back, that energy that once made you leap out of bed with a mission burning inside you. You remember how it felt, sharp, alive, unstoppable. But now it's quiet, flat, and so you wait. You wait for that feeling to return, hoping that one morning you'll rise with fire in your bones again. But here's the truth no one likes to say. The fire doesn't come before the work, it comes from the work. And the work only begins when you force yourself through the heavy friction of stillness, boredom, and doubt. You light a fire by striking, not by sitting. By rubbing, not by resting. You create heat from resistance. This is how fire works in nature, and it's how it works in your spirit, too. You don't wait for the perfect conditions. You grind, you move, and through that motion, the spark is born. Most people never discover this. They chase feelings instead of feeding flames. They keep trying to feel motivated before they act. They seek a magical moment of readiness. But motivation is not a prerequisite, it's a byproduct. It follows obedience. It follows that decision to sit down, to walk forward, to keep going even when your heart feels cold. And those who live only by inspiration end up lost when inspiration is absent. But the ones who act anyway, they learn that the fire always follows action. So how do you create that spark when everything inside you feels empty? You show up anyway. You sit down to write, even if your mind is blank. You lace your shoes and walk, even if the air is still. You practice your craft, even when it feels like every part of you is just going through the motions. You don't fake energy, you earn it. Not by feeling your way into action, but by acting your way into feeling. Every repetition done without passion is a match being struck. It may not light the first time, or the 5th, or the 10th, but eventually one will catch. And when it does, all that dry work becomes fuel. Picture someone dragging themselves to the desk for the 10th day in a row. Still dry, still uncertain, still numb. But on the 11th day, it hits. A sentence flows, a solution appears, a moment of clarity breaks through. It was earned, not gifted. That's how the fire returns, quietly, unexpectedly, but only to the one who kept showing up, the one who didn't wait to feel like it, the one who put in the dole wraps with no praise, no feedback, no reward. And that's what makes the fire yours. Not luck, not magic, but ownership. When you earn the flame through friction, it belongs to you, and no one can take it. Consistency is the flint, discipline is the steel, repetition is the strike, and between them, a fire is born, not in one flash, but over time. This is why showing up matters, not because every day is powerful, but because any day might be. You never know which repetition will be the one that unlocks momentum, so you keep swinging, even in silence. Especially in silence. The spark is buried under layers of resistance, emotional numbness, mental fog, physical fatigue. It won't rise until something rubs against it. So you bring the friction. You bring your presence to the page, the gym, the craft. Even if your spirit isn't roaring, your body leads the way. And in that motion, the ember begins to form. It's small, almost invisible, but it's alive because you moved. Don't underestimate the power of uninspired effort. It's the raw material of greatness. Everyone loves the blaze. No one celebrates the spark, but the spark is where everything begins. So if today feels dry, good. That means you're close. If the work feels dull, great. That means the friction is building. Every act done in the absence of feeling is fuel for the moment when the fire breaks through. There will be days you feel nothing. You'll question your path. You'll wonder if anything is working. But those are the exact days that define who you are becoming. Not the days when it's easy, but the days when it's not. The dull days, the heavy days, the days you show up without a reason. These are the days that build the inner fire the world will one day see. You're not lost, you're not broken. You're just waiting on the fire. And that fire is waiting on you. It's not found in more thinking, it's found in doing. And the moment you act in defiance of the void, the fire begins to notice. The moment you take motion into the stillness, you strike the match again. It may flicker at first, but it's coming. Keep striking. Ask yourself, what if the fire you long for is waiting on the other side of your dullest effort? What if everything you're seeking is hiding in the grind, not in the glory? What if showing up today, tired, blank, uninspired, is the exact thing that sets tomorrow on fire? You don't need to feel alive to build something that breathes life back into you. You just need to start striking. One day soon, the spark will catch. And when it does, you'll know. You earned this fire. People don't fail because of pain. They fail because of silence. You expect the struggle to break you, the big failure, the heavy loss, the sharp pain. But more often, it's not the pain that ends a person's journey. It's the silence, the emotional numbness, the dull stretch of days when nothing feels urgent, nothing feels exciting, and even survival feels like a vague task. The storm tests your strength, yes, but the fog tests your will. And most people aren't defeated by chaos, they're defeated by quiet. It's not the violence of life that stops you, it's the grayness, the flat days, when everything feels slow, dull, and meaningless. The dangerous thing about numbness is that it whispers, why bother? And if you listen to it too long, you'll stop moving without even realizing you've stopped. That's why this season requires alertness. When the fog rolls in, nothing feels urgent. Nothing seems important. Your mission, your goals, your energy, they all blur together into a vague, tired haze. But this is where the real decisions are made. Not in passion, not in the peak, but in the flat, quiet middle. You either let the silence swallow your purpose, or you whisper back with action. Not loud, not glorious, but steady, intentional, alive. This is how builders are made. Not in fire, but in fog. When you no longer feel the thrill, yet you still move. You keep doing what you said you'd do. You keep the promises you made to yourself when the world still made sense. That's what separates builders from drifters. One holds their line, the other lets it dissolve. And it's a quiet choice. One that no one sees, but one that defines everything. So what can you do when the world feels shapeless? You create structure. You bring shape to the shapeless. You keep your schedule. You make your bed. You repeat your affirmations, even if your voice is weak. You write your mission again and again until your silence starts to respond. You don't chase the fire. You rebuild the furnace, brick by brick, with tiny, consistent actions. That's the secret most miss. Small structure defeats big numbness. You don't have to fix your entire life. You only have to keep the rhythm. Go to sleep on time. Eat real food. Move your body. Speak kindly to yourself. These things may feel simple, even boring, but they are anchors. And when everything else drifts, an anchor is enough to keep you grounded. Picture someone walking through their day with no feeling, no joy, no sorrow, just gray. But they rise, they stretch, they brush their teeth, they open the journal and write one page, they go to work, they try again. No one claps, no one notices, but the future is watching. The strength being built in that silence is real, quiet but real. The person who moves in silence becomes unstoppable, because if you can keep going without applause, without clarity, without energy, you've built something unbreakable. Most people can sprint when the world is cheering, but can you walk when the world is quiet? Can you carry your purpose when it feels invisible? That's the question the fog asks, and your actions are the answer. The silence is not your enemy, it's your mirror. It shows you what's really there. When the external noise is gone, you're left with only you, your thoughts, your choices, your character. And this is where the inner work deepens, where the real alignment happens. It's not exciting, but it's essential. Growth is forged in the stillness far more than in the spot. You may want to wait for the fire to return, to feel something again before you act. But here's the truth. Action comes first. Feeling follows. Always. You speak before you believe. You move before you're ready. You write before the words feel good. That's how momentum is built. Not by emotion, but by repetition. Show up long enough and the silence begins to crack. Your identity is shaped more by what you do in the fog than what you do when the heart is numb and the mind is tired, but the hands still move. That's power. That's discipline. That's the definition of a person who is no longer ruled by moods, but led by mission. And in time, that mission becomes the very thing that brings the fire back. You will not always feel strong. You will not always feel inspired, but you can always be faithful. You can be loyal to your process even when it feels like it's leading nowhere, because faithfulness builds a foundation that emotions cannot shake. That's what resilience really is. Not speed, but staying. Not performance, but persistence. So ask yourself, will I let the silence define me? Or will I move anyway? Will I drift or will I build? You don't need to win the whole war today. You just need to win 1 hour, one action, one step forward, and then another. Over time, those steps become a path. And that path leads you out of the fog and into a life that no longer depends on perfect weather. This silence may feel like the end, but it's not. It's an invitation to build something quieter, stronger, deeper. A life not based on hype or adrenaline, but on choice, on character, on consistent motion. So choose one thing and move, no matter how soft the step. It counts. Consistency is the slowest form of power and the most unstoppable. You want results now. You want proof that your work matters, that your effort is moving something forward. You want a win, a breakthrough, a sign that says, yes, you're on the right path. But the greatest power you will ever build isn't fast. It's not flashy. It's not something others applaud right away. The real power is consistency. Quiet, unseen, uncelebrated, but completely unstoppable. The firework may impress the crowd, but it's the steady flame that heats the home. In a world obsessed with feelings, with motivation, with chasing the next emotional high, the person who learns to follow a rhythm wins. Not because they're smarter, not because they have more talent, but because they keep showing up day after day, rain or shine, inspired or not. And that rhythm becomes a revolution, not overnight, but gradually, until everything around them begins to shift. Consistency is so rare because it feels unremarkable. It's not thrilling, it's not exciting, it doesn't flood you with reward. At first, it feels like nothing's changing, but over time, something begins to build. You stand taller, you speak clearer, you think with more precision. Your actions align with your purpose, and before you even realize it, you're becoming someone new, someone dependable, someone strong. Then the world starts to take notice, not because you announced it, but because you became it. This is the problem with most people. They want a spark, not a system. They want adrenaline, not rhythm. But strength is never born in a burst, it's built in a routine, a daily pattern, a promise kept. And the hardest part isn't starting, it's repeating. When the mood fades, when the weather turns, when no one is watching, that's when consistency either lives or dies. So what can you do in a world of distractions and instant gratification? You pick a rhythm, something daily, something simple, and then you guard it like gold. Don't ask if you feel like it, just do it. Let the routine carry you when motivation won't. Let it become your default, your anchor. You're not chasing perfection here, you're chasing presence. You're letting your discipline shape your day so that life doesn't decide it for you. Imagine someone building a wall, one stone at a time. While others laugh, while others sleep, while others quit and restart 1,000 times, this person keeps placing stones, slowly, silently, day by day. It looks boring, but years later that wall is a fortress, strong, tall, reliable. And the builder, they are unshakable, because they didn't wait for the world to push them, they pushed themselves. You must decide what matters more, the rush or the result. Do you want sparks that fizzle or strength that lasts? One gives you a moment, the other gives you a legacy. Most people don't lose because they lack vision. They lose because they lack repetition. They never stay long enough at one thing to let it grow. But you can. You must. Discipline is not about harshness, it's about love. Love for your future, love for your mission. You don't show up every day because it's easy. You show up because you believe in who you're becoming. You write, you train, you learn. Not because every session is magic, but because you're building momentum. And that momentum, when protected, becomes power. Not the kind that shouts, the kind that lasts. Yes, it will feel boring sometimes. That's normal. Anything meaningful requires boredom before brilliance, repetition before results. But if you trust the rhythm, if you stick with it even when it feels flat, you will wake up one day and everything will feel different. Not suddenly, but unmistakably. Because your habits changed your identity. Let your routine become your protection. Let it carry you through the days when you feel nothing. Let it lead when your emotions are scattered. You don't need motivation, you need systems. 1 page written, 1 rep completed, 1 promise honored. Over time, these become a foundation. A place your soul can stand when the storms come. And they will come. That's why consistency isn't optional. It's essential. Forget about proving something to others. Let your consistency prove something to you. That you are reliable. That you are loyal to your own future. That you are not here to flash and fade. You are here to build and endure. Let each repeated act be a vote for the person you're becoming. Let your habits speak louder than your hopes. So ask yourself, are you chasing sparks or building strength? Do you crave the temporary thrill or the long-term transformation? You get to decide every day, every hour, and every time you return to your rhythm, when it's cold, when it's quiet, when no one cares, you're becoming someone rare, someone who finishes what they start, someone the world can trust. You don't need to rush, you don't need to impress. You need to return. Return to the rhythm, return to the work. Let your footsteps carve a path. Let your days stack up until one day you're standing on a mountain you built. 1 stone, 1 habit, 1 choice at a time. The world may never cheer for your discipline, but your future will. Your word to yourself is sacred. Keep it no matter what. You've made promises before, to others, to yourself. Some you kept, some you didn't. Maybe you've said, tomorrow I'll begin, or this time I'll stick with it, and maybe you didn't. That's human. But if you want to rise from the pit of numbness, of emptiness, of drifting through life without a pulse, there is only one way up. Treat your word to yourself like a sacred vow. Not a maybe, not a wish, a vow unbreakable, non-negotiable, unshakable. Every time you say I will and follow through, even when you don't feel like it, you build something that most people never touch. Integrity. Not public integrity, but private, internal. The kind that lives in your bones and stands tall in the silence. It's the unseen steel in your spine, the invisible architecture of a life that cannot be knocked over by moods, noise, or failure. Why is this powerful? Because when you believe your own word, the world loses its control over you. You stop needing applause, you stop waiting for permission, you stop chasing validation, you lead yourself. And when storms come, and they will, you do not collapse, you do not lose yourself in the chaos, because you have proven again and again that your word means something. To the only person who truly matters, the real transformation happens not when you impress others, but when you impress yourself. When you set a rule and follow it. When you say, I'll show up, and you do. Not because it's convenient, not because you're in the mood, but because you said you would. That's what changes the game. Not the grand gestures, but the small vows kept in silence. So what's the path forward? Speak less, follow through more. Don't proclaim your plans to the world, prove them in private. Set a time, then show up. Make the vow small but sacred. Don't say, I'll change everything. Say, I'll do this at this time. Then do it. No excuses, no negotiations. You are building a track record with yourself, one that matters more than any audience. Excuses may sound intelligent, even justified, but every time you let one win, your integrity weakens. And over time, if you break your own word often enough, you begin to stop trusting yourself. That's where despair grows, not in failure, but in the loss of belief in your own voice. So instead of aiming for perfection, aim for alignment. Say what you can do and then do it. Picture someone who says, I will wake at 5, and they do, not for a badge, not because they feel like it, but because they said so. There's power in that kind of discipline, power that can't be bought or faked. Over time, that person becomes immovable because their foundation isn't emotion, it's integrity. a quiet strength that no storm can shake. There's something holy about becoming someone you can count on. When your word becomes law to your own life, you step out of the fog. You move from chaos to clarity. You stop second guessing. You stop delaying because the decision has already been made, and you respect it, just as you would if you'd given your word to someone you love. Only this time, you're giving it to you. The smallest promise kept to yourself holds more power than the biggest promise shouted to the world. You don't need to declare your goals to strangers. You don't need loud affirmations. You need private proof. One act a day, one vow honored. These are the steps that rebuild belief, that restore strength, that light a path out of numbness and into purpose. You may think it's just one skipped workout, one missed writing session, one snoozed alarm, but these aren't just missed tasks. They're tiny fractures in the trust you have with yourself. And too many fractures make a life fragile. But every time you show up, that's a repair, a reinforcement, a declaration. I can rely on me. Imagine how your life would look if your promises to yourself were laws, non-negotiable, non-dependent on your mood. Just true, how different would your health look? Your work, your focus, your peace. You'd move through life with a quiet kind of power, the kind that doesn't need noise, the kind that carries weight. Don't underestimate the compound effect of self-trust. Over weeks, over months, over years, it turns you into someone others feel without needing you to speak. You walk into rooms differently. You respond to life differently. You're not reactive. You're rooted because you know who you are. And that knowledge isn't based on feelings. It's based on proof. So make the next vow small. Make it honest. Make it doable. Then honor it like a law, not because it's convenient, but because it's who you are now. Every sacred vow to yourself fulfilled takes you one step closer to a life built on inner power, not outer permission. And that's a life worth living. The journey back from numbness is not a loud one. It's not a dramatic leap. It's a quiet rise, built on whispered vows, followed by quiet actions that no one sees, but that you feel. And over time, those small actions stack into a version of you that can no longer be broken, a version of you that trusts, moves, and leads. So ask yourself, what would your life look like if your promises to yourself were treated like laws? Make one today, then follow through, and tomorrow, make another. The world may not notice, but your soul will. And that's where everything begins. The moment you want to quit is the doorway to break through. It happens to everyone. That one heavy moment when you're standing in the middle of your effort, your goals, your routine, and you feel nothing. No fire, no momentum, no joy, just weight. You look back at everything you've poured in, time, energy, belief, and wonder. Is this even worth it? Your mind whispers that you're wasting your time, that you should stop. But in that exact moment, you must double down. Not walk away, not pause, not negotiate, double down. Why? Because that isn't failure talking, it's resistance. It's the final grip of doubt trying to pull you away before the breakthrough. This is the test few talk about, the quiet crisis that comes right before the shift. Most people turn back, not because they can't win, but because they don't know how close they are. The deeper reward always lives just beyond the discomfort. One more step into the dark. You're not broken in that moment. You're close. That wall of numbness, that fog of indifference, that's not a stop sign. It's a threshold. Something in you is about to evolve, and the mind fights it because change is uncomfortable. So what do most people do? They retreat. They stop swinging. They walk away from the well when they were inches from water, but not you. You must learn to see that voice, not as truth, but as a signal. So what do you do when that quitting voice shows up? You breathe, you plant your feet, you square your shoulders, and you move forward, even if it's mechanical, even if it feels fake, even if your hands are heavy and your heart is quiet, because in that moment, your compass is not emotion, it's commitment. You made a vow to yourself. That's what you follow, not the fleeting mood of a hard day. Think of a person digging a well. They've been swinging for days, dry dirt, more dry dirt. Every strike feels pointless. And then, when they almost quit, they lift the pickaxe one more time, and water gushes. Not because they tried harder, but because they kept going. The shift was never magical, it was mechanical. The result wasn't luck, it was loyalty. To the process, to the mission, to the promise. There's a lie that says if it feels wrong, it is wrong. But the truth is, some of your most important steps will feel empty. That doesn't make them meaningless, it makes them foundational. You're teaching yourself to keep going when the world gives you no applause, when your effort feels invisible, when the road feels endless. That's where real character is formed, not in comfort, but in continuance. The difference between people who win and those who don't is rarely talent. It's rarely intelligence. It's endurance, the willingness to keep walking when others sit down, the refusal to equate temporary feelings with permanent reality. You might feel defeated, but feelings aren't facts. What you do next matters more than how you feel right now. That next action could be the one that changes everything. You are closer than you think. That moment when you feel furthest from progress is often the last gasp of your old self. It's trying to keep you safe, small, unchanged. But the breakthrough is buried just a layer deeper. Just one more push, one more rep, one more uncomfortable call. That's all it takes. Not a miracle, just a choice. Don't stop here. Not now. Your mind will try to romanticize the escape. Take a break, it will say. Come back when it feels better. But if you leave in that moment, you may never return with the same momentum. You'll restart, but it won't be the same. Something will be lost. The fire you built was meant to carry you through this, not around it. So stay, swing, strike, show up. You're allowed to feel tired. You're allowed to question. But don't confuse discomfort with defeat. You are not failing. You are forming, becoming, sharpening. And everything you're doing now, even when it feels pointless, is adding strength to your foundation. Don't break your own momentum because of one quiet, low-energy day. Low feelings don't mean you're lost. They mean you're growing. Your breakthrough won't announce itself. It won't come with a parade. It will sneak in when you're knee-deep in doubt, when your hands are blistered, when your eyes are dim. It will show up in the form of a result you didn't expect, a shift in your thinking, a door that opens because you didn't walk away. And when it comes, you'll know it was born not from excitement, but from endurance. So ask yourself, when that quitting voice shows up, will I treat it as truth or as a sign? A sign that I'm close, that I'm almost there, that if I just keep going a little longer, I'll cross that invisible line most never reach. The choice is yours, to retreat or to rise, to back down or to press forward through the fog. You don't need a grand burst of energy. You need one decision, one step, one swing over and over, until the silence breaks, until the well opens, until the results chase you. You're not waiting for motivation. You're waiting to earn momentum. And that momentum belongs to the one who refuses to quit on the edge. The future respects those who show up without applause. There is a quiet strength that few will ever understand. The strength of the person who works when no one is watching. No applause, no spotlight, no praise. Just the raw weight of a commitment they made long ago. They rise early. They stay late. They move without noise. That person is building something deeper than success. They're building substance. You must become that kind of person, because the future doesn't reveal itself to the loud or the flashy. It reveals itself to those who keep showing up when it's just them and the work. Applause is a trick. It feels good, but it can distort your sense of direction. It can inflate your ego, or worse, make you dependent on it. But silence never lies. It strips the work down to its essence. When you continue without recognition, you prove something sacred, that your purpose is greater than your need for validation. That is rare and powerful. Most people don't last in silence. They start strong, then fade when no one claps. They work hard when they're seen, but slip when they're not. But if you can thrive in silence, if you can push without permission, improve without an audience, stay steady without attention, you become a force that can't be shaken. You don't bend to moods or external rewards. You bend only to your mission. How do you build that kind of character? Start small. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. Just do one difficult thing every day that no one will see. Clean your desk. Study your craft. Write in your journal. Train your body. Learn in secret. And then do it again tomorrow. This becomes your private code, a standard that needs no witness to be honored. These invisible efforts, compounded over time, create visible transformation. You don't need to post it. You don't need to talk about it. You just do it. And soon you'll look around and realize you've built something solid, quietly, slowly, but fully. While others were looking for shortcuts, you were laying bricks. And now you stand on a foundation they can't see, but you can feel. Picture someone waking before the sun. No alarm blaring, no eyes watching, just quiet breath, steady hands, and clear intent. They sit down to write, or lift, or study, or pray. The world sleeps, but they build, piece by piece, day by day. No reward today, but they know it's working. Years later, others see the results and call it talent or luck. But it wasn't luck. It was consistency in silence. That's the truth most miss. The days no one sees, they count the most, because they shape who you are when nothing is on the line. No one to impress, no one to disappoint, just you and your values. Your response in those moments defines you, not in theory, in practice. That's how identity is forged, not by what you say, but by what you do when no one's looking. Every choice in silence is a vote for the kind of person you want to become. It's easy to act with integrity when eyes are on you. But true discipline is born when you're alone, when the temptation to skip, delay, or give in is strongest, and you choose not to. That's power, that's leadership, and that's a strength no one can take from you. The world rewards noise, but life rewards depth. The deeper your roots, the stronger your future. So don't fear the quiet, embrace it. It means you're in the real work now. It means you're not performing, you're growing. Let your habits speak louder than your posts. Let your discipline be your legacy. Let your unseen labor become your unshakable edge. Think about your daily rhythm. Are you consistent when the audience disappears? Are your goals alive behind closed doors? Or do they only show up when attention does? Because the truth is, growth doesn't care who's watching. Progress doesn't require a stage. It requires commitment, repetition, devotion, especially when it feels like no one notices, because that's when it matters most. If you want to become someone unshakable, train yourself to thrive in obscurity, to move with urgency even when there's no deadline, to stay sharp even when no one is checking. When you develop that kind of private discipline, the results eventually speak loudly, not in volume, but in weight, in calm, in confidence, in results that can't be denied. So ask yourself, what do I do when no one's looking? What kind of effort do I offer when there's no promise of reward? Those answers will shape your life more than any burst of motivation, more than any praise, more than any crowd. They'll tell you who you really are and who you're becoming. Start today. Do something small, hard, and invisible. Then repeat it tomorrow. Build in the dark. Train in the silence. Refine your habits until they become instinct. And let the future arrive not because you chased it, but because you prepared for it when no one was watching. Let the world be noisy. Let others chase the spotlight. You have something better, a code, a rhythm, a standard. Honor it in secret, and in time you will rise in strength no one can question. That is the reward for those who build in silence. And it starts with what you choose to do today when no one sees. Resistance means you're moving in the right direction. You think the hard days mean you're off course. You assume that if you were on the right path, things would feel easier, smoother. But that's not how growth works. When you walk uphill, your legs burn. When you lift a heavier weight, your muscles strain. When you stretch into something unfamiliar, your mind resists. That's not failure. It's confirmation. It means you've moved beyond what's comfortable, beyond the ordinary, and discomfort is proof that something new is happening. Most people avoid this friction. They reach their edge and stop, saying, it shouldn't be this hard. But that's where they're wrong. It has to be this hard, because growth demands resistance. No one expands while staying the same. Friction is the entry fee to strength. The question isn't, why is this happening? The question is, will I lean into it or step back into comfort where nothing changes? Resistance isn't a red flag, it's a signpost. It says you've arrived at the threshold. Every time you feel stretched, challenged, unsure, that's your life showing you where the next level begins. But it won't hand it to you, it will test you. And if you panic or quit when resistance shows up, you miss the very thing you were trying to reach. You miss the moment where power is transferred from struggle to strength. So how do you use resistance as your compass? First, expect it. Don't be shocked when the path gets heavy. Don't waste energy being surprised. Welcome it. Anticipate it. Write it down. This is supposed to be difficult. That way, when it hits, you won't retreat. You'll recognize it, and instead of backing off, you'll press forward with greater intention, knowing this is where growth begins. Think of someone learning a new craft, a new language, a new skill. At first, their hands fumble, their thoughts get tangled, their progress is slow, it's awkward, frustrating, but they don't give up. They stay in the resistance. They stumble forward. They keep practicing, and slowly something changes. One day, the words connect. The hands flow. The once clumsy act becomes second nature, but only because they didn't retreat when it was hard. That's what the path to mastery looks like. Messy, repetitive, unrewarding at first, but underneath the struggle is something forming, something worth the burn. And if you walk away too soon, you never get to see it. Most people never experience the reward because they never make it through the middle. They think tension equals failure, but it's the tension that molds them into something stronger. Remember this, the hardest part of the journey is not the beginning, it's the middle. The moment where the energy of starting has worn off, but the reward hasn't arrived. That's where most people quit, but that's also where the most powerful people rise. They lean into the boredom. They stay with the struggle. They trust that pressure means progress, and resistance means they're exactly where they need to be. You are not failing when things get hard. You're breaking through. You're shedding the soft skin of old habits. You're stretching into something better. But growth won't feel like inspiration. It will feel like effort, strain, friction. You must stop waiting for ease and start embracing the challenge as a signal that you're doing it right. Because if it didn't challenge you, it couldn't change you. Your most powerful growth moments won't come wrapped in confidence. They'll come during breakdowns, doubts, days when you wonder if it's worth it. But if you keep showing up in those moments, if you keep going when everything says stop, you become someone unrecognizable to your old self, someone forged in fire, not comfort, someone real, someone resilient. So the next time resistance appears, don't flinch, don't dramatize it, welcome it. Say, this means I'm on the right path. Let it focus you, not frustrate you. Let it sharpen your practice. Let it teach you what's still weak and what's already growing stronger. Resistance is not your enemy, it's your trainer. And it doesn't waste time with people going nowhere. Don't ask for an easier path, ask for stronger legs. Ask for a deeper reason. Remind yourself, I am in the process of becoming. And becoming isn't smooth, it's jagged. Becoming isn't linear, it's chaotic. But in that chaos, you're building capacity, depth, clarity. And one day, what was once difficult becomes your new baseline. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. This is what most people don't realize. The breakthrough is rarely dramatic, it's quiet. It shows up after you've endured the grind, after you've faced the wall and walked through it anyway. It shows up on the day you almost gave up, but didn't. And the world will call it talent or luck, but you'll know it was resistance that made you ready. So ask yourself, what if your most difficult moments weren't signs of failure, but signs that you're finally on the right path? What if the friction, the doubt, the fatigue is not a curse, but a clue, a signal that you're growing in real time? Don't run from it, don't numb it, walk into it with your eyes open and your back straight. Resistance means something is working, that your edges are being tested, that you are no longer who you used to be. And if you stay with it just a little longer, you'll find that everything you've been working for was never far away. It was just on the other side of the part where most people stop. You're not most people. Keep going. Excellence is built in the absence of feeling. You've been taught to wait for the lightning bolt, the perfect mood, the divine spark of inspiration that makes creating effortless and joyful. But excellence doesn't work like that. Greatness isn't born in bursts, it's forged in rhythm, not in fire, but in discipline. The truth is, waiting to feel inspired is just procrastination in disguise. If you want to build something lasting, art, skill, strength, you must learn to move, whether the heart sings or stays silent. The greatest artists, thinkers, and builders didn't rise because they felt inspired every day. They rose because they showed up. To the canvas, to the page, to the forge, again and again, even when it was dull, even when they doubted themselves. And often, it was in their most empty hours that their finest work was born. Why? Because they trusted the process, not the mood. That's the difference between amateurs and masters. Waiting to feel ready is a habit you must break. Because if you keep giving your creativity over to your mood, it will vanish. You'll live in a cycle of false starts and unfinished ideas. So instead, build a ritual. Set a time, keep it sacred. When the clock hits that hour, you start. No debate, no bargaining. You don't ask yourself if you feel like it. You begin because you decided that you would. You lead with your hands, your body, your breath. You let motion carry you where feeling cannot. It might start dull, clumsy, tired, But action has a way of waking the spirit. It's not the heart that starts the fire, it's the hands. And when they move long enough, the fire comes, slowly, quietly, and soon your heart begins to follow where your discipline already walked. Picture someone sitting at a desk. The light is dim, their eyes are heavy, the page is blank. They don't feel like a genius, they don't feel like a creator, but they write one line, then another. The work is ordinary, but over time something takes shape. A sentence turns into a rhythm becomes a voice, and that voice, built in silence, will one day roar. This is how masterpieces are made, not in wild fits of passion, but in stillness, in repetition, in devotion to a standard that doesn't depend on energy or emotion. Some of the greatest works in history were made on days when the creator didn't feel anything special, but they showed up anyway. And the act of showing up made something wholly out of the ordinary. There's a lie that says great work comes from great feeling, but the truth is, great work comes from great habits. Inspiration is unreliable, it's a luxury. What's reliable is the chair, the tools, the moment you begin. That's where the real spark lives, not in your emotions, but in your ability to begin anyway. Set your time, make it daily, even if it's 15 minutes. Show up, touch your craft, speak your vision, move your body, sketch the plan. Don't chase perfection, chase presence. Be there, even when you don't feel brilliant, because every session adds a brick, and eventually you'll look up and see a structure that wasn't built by feeling. It was built by faithful action. Think of every moment you didn't want to do the work and did it anyway. That's power. That's where greatness lives. Not in the highlight reel, but in the behind-the-scenes footage of you rising when it would have been easier to wait. Excellence is earned in those private hours, those small decisions, those invisible efforts, repeated until they echo with strength. People will call it talent. They'll say you're so lucky to be inspired. They won't see the 100 dull days, the drafts, the scraps, the messy rehearsals. They'll see the result and miss the process. But you will know. You'll remember every time you worked through boredom, fatigue, doubt, and chose not to quit. That's the story behind every masterpiece. It's okay if your work feels average today. It's okay if your thoughts aren't flowing. What matters is that you do the work anyway. Don't worship your feelings, command them. Let your actions teach your mind that creation is not optional. It's a discipline, a responsibility. And the more you treat it that way, the more it becomes part of who you are, not just something you do when the stars align. Ask yourself honestly, what could I create if I stopped waiting to feel ready? What idea would be finished? What skill would be mastered? What progress would I have made if I trusted action over inspiration? The answer is simple. Everything would change, because you'd stop letting emotion lead and start letting commitment build. Make a promise to yourself, I will show up, I will work, not because I feel like it, but because I chose to, and I'll keep showing up until the work shapes me into someone I've never been before. That's how you create something real. That's how you make something that lasts. You don't need to feel ready, you need to begin. Begin tired, begin uncertain, begin unprepared. Just begin. And let repetition refine you. Let the process surprise you, because the spark you've been waiting for isn't out there. It's on the other side of showing up today. When you lead yourself, you don't need permission to rise. Most people live by outside permission. They wait for the signal, for the nod, for someone to say, now you may begin. They hand over their power thinking they need approval before they can take action. But the person who leads themselves, they don't wait. They don't ask. They move. Whether they're seen or doubted, whether they're praised or ignored, they take the first step, they rise, not because they were invited, but because they decided to. To live this way, you must become your own commander, not a follower of moods, not a seeker of signs. You must develop internal direction. This doesn't mean being loud or arrogant. It means walking with purpose, quietly, powerfully, persistently. It means trusting your own vision, even when no one claps. The leader within you doesn't shout. They don't chase attention. They simply act consistently and deliberately. Why is this so rare? Because self-leadership is lonely. It doesn't come with instant validation. No crowd cheers for the person waking up early to build something no one else sees. The early stages of greatness are always quiet. You have to believe in your steps long before the results show. You have to work in silence while others wait for applause. But once you build this muscle, it changes everything. You stop needing to be pushed. You pull yourself every single day. And that is power. When no one has to remind you, when no one has to cheer for you, when no voice outside you is louder than the voice within. That's when you become unshakable, not because things are easy, but because you've stopped waiting to be chosen. You've chosen yourself. You've accepted the quiet responsibility of your own future. So how do you begin to lead yourself? You write your mission. Put your vision into words, not vague hopes, but a clear direction. This is who I am. This is where I'm going. Then you make your own rules, not society's, not comforts, yours. Set your standards, hold them fiercely. You don't wait for someone to monitor your progress, you monitor yourself. You don't wait for a manager, you become one. This mindset shifts everything. Suddenly, each day has a purpose. Your routine isn't a task list, it's a blueprint. Your time becomes sacred. Your energy becomes intentional. You no longer scroll for permission. You build. You stop comparing because you're too focused on creating. And in this solitude, you find a kind of peace, a rhythm only the self-led ever discover. Picture someone building a bridge in the dark. No one asks them to. No one believes it will work, but they keep laying stone, day by day, in wind, in doubt, in silence. They don't stop to explain. They don't beg for recognition. They continue, and one day, someone walks across that bridge. Then another, then dozens. And the world says, "How did you do this?" But the builder just smiles. They already knew. This is how leadership begins, not when others follow, but when you lead before they do, before they believe, before they see, before they clap. True self-leadership is invisible at first, but it's in that invisibility that greatness is built. If you only act when someone is watching, you'll never go far. But if you act because you are watching, then nothing can stop you. You don't need to wait for credentials. You don't need someone to validate your path. The truth is, no one will fully see your vision until it's complete, and by then you'll already be too far ahead to need their opinion. That's what happens when you choose to lead yourself. You develop momentum from within. You're no longer steered by reaction. You're moved by conviction. People may misunderstand your quiet determination. They may mock the early phases of your work. Let them, because while they wait for clarity, you're building it. While they wait for proof, you're becoming it. You're no longer auditioning, you're executing. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. You know the difference between being comfortable and being called, and you choose the latter. Choosing yourself isn't arrogance, it's alignment. It's the recognition that no one else can see your full blueprint. No one else carries your exact calling. That means no one else can truly give you permission. Only you can. And when you finally grant yourself that permission, when you decide, this is mine to build, the world shifts. Not immediately, but eventually, because you didn't wait. Look at your current life. Where are you waiting for applause before you move? Where are you waiting to feel ready? Where are you hoping someone else sees your potential before you claim it yourself? Stop waiting. You're not here to be discovered. You're here to build, to lead, to rise quietly and consistently, even when no one's looking. So write your mission, set your rules, make your path, lead yourself like someone you respect, because that's what self-leadership is. Not just ambition, but honor. The kind that shows up early, stays late, moves forward without needing to be seen. That kind of person becomes inevitable, not because they were invited, but because they showed up anyway. Will you lead yourself before anyone else believes in your path? Will you build your bridge while others sleep? Will you hold your standard when no one's watching? The answers to these questions won't be spoken, they'll be lived. In the work, in the habits, in the silence, and in time, the world will walk across what you built, wondering how you did it. And you'll know, I led myself. When the world goes quiet and your soul feels numb, remember this. Your breakthrough won't come from waiting to feel ready. It comes from moving anyway, from standing up when nothing inside you wants to. That's how greatness is born, not from emotion, but from decision. So the next time you feel nothing, do something. Take one step, then another, and don't stop. Because the version of you who refuses to quit is the one who wins.